The following video was taken from a chapter of Jude Duper-Duville's science fiction novel entitled The Snapdragon Code, now offered on Amazon. Please note that this script is not a product of AI. Please watch and enjoy. It had turned cold and windy after the early sunset, and it had started spitting snow, a reminder that winter had begun. Stan could have been anywhere in the world right now, including on his private island in the Caribbean, but this cold place was where Evey wanted to be, and he wanted to be with her. So after a while, the two of them went into the palatial pool house with Evey's periwinkled blue walls. For Evey, this room was her island. This was her warm water escape, and so once again she found herself stepping into the hot tub's bubbling hot springs of indulgence. Looking through the many glass doors, where the outside spotlights illuminated the ground, she could see the wind blowing the snow on the ground around in little vortex swirls. Tonight she would not burden Stan with questions about the past or their future, because right now, neither was certain. For the moment, her life had become ethereal, without floor or ceiling, just merely passing thoughts that vanished with just the slightest breeze from a door opening or closing.
When Stan joined Evey in the steamy water, he hoped things would quickly turn romantic. However, Evey talked about other matters instead, such as the Christmas traditions at the farm, and her days working at the lodge, and the time she came face to face with a moose while walking alone in the woods. You know, Stan, I've been very lucky to have had a chance to live in a place like this. Very few people do. I'll never forget it. That's for sure, even after I die. Evey says wistfully. Right away, Stan says, "Why would you have to forget it? You can be here as long as you like, so don't make it sound like you're leaving." Stan says, becoming alarmed by Evey's comments. "And if you're concerned about my being prosecuted for..." Here, immediately, Evey interrupts him before he could finish his statement. "Not tonight, Stan. We'll talk about these things tomorrow, when we're both rested. We'll have a long talk tomorrow, okay?" Evey says as she sinks down below her shoulders into the very warm water she had come to rely on when stressed. The rest of the evening passed quietly, with both of them keeping their thoughts to themselves. Only perfunctory comments were allowed during the next few hours. Stan wondered how much Evey knew about his criminal case, and Evey wondered how much Stan was responsible for it. Both were looking down at the precipice while wondering who would fall first.
Their talk, the one that took almost 2 weeks to get to, began on Friday morning, after Adam went off to school and Bea drove to her sister's place to get some Christmas shopping done. Stan suggested they meet in his office at the other end of the building, where they could lock the door and not be interrupted. Stan busied out his phone and took a seat in one of his overstuffed leather chairs. Then, he motioned for Evey to take the other seat facing him. "There's hot coffee in this carafe. The flavored kind you like, or at least the creamer is flavored, some type of mocha," Stan says as he takes the liberty of pouring a cup for himself and one for Evey. He wanted to get their talk off to a cordial start, and thus began the denouement of their situation. Narrator, VO. "Evey, you know how much I care for you. Until you came back into my life, I was a lost, empty person, without a bit of joy in my heart. Then, when I finally decided to tell you about the place I came from, I already understood how difficult it would be for you to believe it. However, I knew I had to tell you the truth because, sooner or later, you'd find out anyway. I figured that, well, after a period of time, you would come to accept it and become curious about these other worlds." Stan, on screen, continues. Evey, on screen, assertive. "I can deal with pretty much everything you've thrown at me recently, Stan, except for one thing. You are being accused of paying to have Dr. Silverman murdered." Narrator, VO. Right away, Stan interjects by saying, "Stan, on screen. But Evey, what reason would I possibly have to want this man dead? I met with him, yes, but only for a short consult. At the time, I didn't think he could help me, so I never went back. This Arson Jacobs person, in my opinion, was just trying to divert the blame for his actions onto someone else, thereby accusing me of planning the job." Stan tells Evey this should make sense to her. He has no answer to her next question.
Narrator, VO. But Stan, why in the world would Jacobs confess? I mean, they weren't pursuing him. They hadn't brought him in for questioning or anything. Evey, on screen. But Stan, why in the world would Jacobs confess? I mean, they weren't pursuing him. They hadn't brought him in for questioning or anything. Stan, on screen, pleading. I don't know all the evidence the police have, Evey. It could be that another witness was going to talk and Jacobs found out. Maybe that's why he decided to confess, because he knew it would make him look better in the eyes of the law. Who knows? Maybe he found out he was terminal and had an attack of conscience. I just don't know. Narrator, VO. What Stan had just said did make some sense to Evey. However, she had also caught him in a lie, and now was the time to get to the bottom of it. Evey had seen the actual CD of the audio tape, and Adam had actually listened to it. Evey, on screen. So, Stan, you met with the doctor for only a few minutes. Is that correct?
Yes, I told you, Evey. I spent less than 10 minutes in his office and then I left.
Stan, a while back, just about a month ago, I found an audio tape of you speaking to Dr. Silverman while you were in his office under hypnosis. So, I pretty much know what you told him. A man in your position would certainly not want this material to get out to anyone. Now, you said that some of your friends came here to this planet, or heaven, the same way you did so. You weren't worried about any of them finding out. However, you certainly could not let this information get out to the rest of the world. I mean, people would think you were, crazy, right? You would lose your position on the boards and the companies you control. You could not let that happen, could you? So, you had him killed. Is that what happened, Stan? Happened.
You know, Evey, I believe that I liked you better when you were merely a soulless avatar. Patra would never have turned on me the way you're doing now. How did you get the tape? Yes, but where? Did you get it at the penthouse? I'll bet it was Adam who stole it, wasn't it? It isn't enough that I've given you everything. Instead of believing in me and standing by me, you've abandoned me, both of you. You've broken my heart. What else should I have expected from the both of you? You're only wretched mortals, and like all the others, you've betrayed me before and after the war.
Where are you going? Stan yells disconsolately. Somewhere away from here. Evey answers, still visibly upset with the whole situation. I think we both need a break from each other. As much as I love you, Stan, too much has happened for me to stay. I can't take any more of this and still remain even somewhat sane. I don't know any woman who could. Now, with this accusation hanging over your head, it's just too much for me to handle. You know, Stan, if you had told me you didn't do it, or if I thought somehow it was a matter of self-defense, then I would be willing to stand by you, but before Evey could finish her sentence, Stan blurts out, "It was self-defense." Then he adds, "Well, in a way it was." These words, his first actual acknowledgement of the murder, almost dropped her to her knees. "So you admit that you did it?" Evey says, waiting for Stan's confirmation. "Yes, I had to. I had no choice. Think about it, Evey. If people ever found out that there were aliens among them, they would certainly panic. What you're telling me, Stan, is that if the world found out the truth about who you are and who your people are, then that would be a bad thing? Why would that necessarily be a bad thing? Hell, think about it. Maybe it's time we all learn the truth, or should I say relearn what actually happened in, what was the year you said? 3699. That's a long, long time from now. And yet, you said that we're really already past that time, right? Are you afraid all the people will go nuts and come after you? They might, but I mean, you told me everything and I didn't go nuts. You know, some things you said even made sense to me, like the great schism that happened because of your out-of-control AI computers, like the laws that were put in place to prevent the abuse of the androids, like, well, let me see, if I can remember exactly how you phrased it, it was the dissipation within society that turned citizens into psychopaths. It all makes sense when you place things into context. Angel made me realize that. Maybe that's what the Bible meant when it says we were all born with original sin. Then Evey adds, someday the same thing will happen right here on Earth if things keep going along the way they are now. Once again, history will repeat itself, I guess. I'm sorry for you, Stan, because you still don't see that all of us, all of the people here on this planet, including the so-called elites, are all the same. The only difference is that you and your followers remember your past lives, and the rest of us don't. Truthfully, I'd rather be among the amnesiacs. How else could I learn empathy? Isn't that what we're all here for? At least that's what Angel said. Although I can't remember what made me agree to come here, I'm proud of myself for having voluntarily chosen the more difficult path. I'm also damned proud of all the rest of the people in this world who did as well. I truly understand that you and your friends thought you were taking a principled stand against, well, the Council's overreach. I wonder, however, if any of you could really see the whole picture. I mean, sometimes it's hard to see the whole picture when you're standing too close to the brush strokes. And then Evey goes on to explain that it was Angel who had filled in the missing pieces regarding their lives in the other heathen, before he showed me proof that he was, well, a real angel. I didn't believe any of what you had told me. He said you and he were close friends at one time. At that moment, Stan quickly interrupts Evey and asks her what Angel looks like. He's athletic with light blonde hair and about your height. He works at the spa at the lodge, and he said he had come here to watch over you and me. That's exactly what he said. Evey reveals without hesitation. He's not here to watch over me, Evey. He's here to spy on me. His name is Michael, and yes, he is an angel, as was I, but he's betrayed me, as you have, Stan says with anger in his voice. You didn't have to kill the doctor, Stan, Evey yells. As she returns to the subject she realizes will now end their marriage and any hope of future happiness. Even if Dr. Silverman had let your secrets out, which I doubt he would have done, the world would have continued spinning. You and I would have continued with our lives and made each other happy, but now that cannot ever happen, Evey says, shaking her head in anguish. Don't worry, Stan, I won't turn you in. A wife can't be forced to testify against her own husband anyway, Evey says as she unlocks the office door, steps out slowly, and then starts running towards the kitchen where her purse with her car keys sat on the counter.